INCOTERMS, one of the fundamental building blocks of international trade, but way too often misunderstood or misused. In today's episode of Commodity Brief, we're going to be focusing on INCOTERMS. These are the international commercial terms which are agreed under the auspices of the International Chamber of Commerce. These terms are essential for international commodity trading so that we are clear what has been agreed between the different parties in a purchase and sale contract. The Incoterm, instead of having to agree on each individual contract, quite a lengthy paragraph, a clause on these specific aspects, we have it agreed straight away. So the Incoterm will provide us the cost and the risk. It will not tell us when the title in the cargo passes. That has to be agreed separately in the contract itself. So if we look at international trading is going on all over the world with all different types of commodities, all different countries, different languages and different types of people. And so what we needed something to unify all these people so that when they talk about the way they're going to buy and sell goods, then they are talking on the same page. And so essentially we can break down a transaction take various steps in a transaction from the point of production, where the cargo is actually produced, all the way through until the final point of consumption. And so essentially we can have the rice being farmed in the field, we can have the iron ore being mined in the mine itself, and we can also have the grain being stored in a silo. And so we can buy and sell the cargo at that point, or we can move on a step. We can go to the port and so actually deliver the cargo into the port, into a warehouse. The seller can load it onto the vessel himself. We can then have the containers. There are certain Incoterms which are designed for use with container shipment. And then we also have the loading, we have the discharging port, and we have the onward transportation into the discharging port. So in order for them to make most sense, we can essentially break it down into a graphical representation such as this. What we have on the left side is we have the various Incoterms. It is always a 3-letter acronym which provides us with that particular Incoterm which has been decided. And essentially here, working our way down, X works. So this is where the cargo has been produced. FCA, free carry alongside, so delivering the cargo alongside the vessel before loading. Free on board, loading on board of the vessel itself. Cost and freight, so transporting the goods to the destination, and cost insurance freight, transporting and providing the insurance as well. And so the excellent thing about a graphical representation such as this is that for each of the different Incoterms, we can look at the different steps of the transportation, and including the customs recommendations, including the insurance, and we can see clearly who has to cover these costs, which party will be responsible. And so what that means is that two people who have never spoken to each other, who don't even speak the same language, can simply say, yes, we agree on a term such as FOB, free on board the vessel. And what that means is that the loading on the truck from the place of production, the export customs, the carriage to the port, the unloading in the port, and the loading into the vessel itself are paid by the seller. Everything else is paid by the buyer, the transportation, the discharging, the transportation within the country of destination. And so with a 3-letter acronym, we have just made our life much, much easier. And so we have to be careful though when we're using the various Incoterms, because we have to know what they include and make sure that we are talking about the same thing. Otherwise, we have different graphical representations. This one is very, very easy to use. And so anyone who is using Incoterms on a daily basis should have this ready to hand so that they can access it and they can take advantage of it straight away. Otherwise, in terms of the Incoterms themselves, as I said, it will tell us the transfer of risk and who pays which cost. So the loading cost, the discharging cost, who pays for the insurance, and as far as the transfer of risk, If we are under an Incoterm such as free on board, then the risk will transfer at the port of loading. Any damage to the cargo, the vessel sinking during the transportation, will be the risk of the buyer. The buyer will have to insure the goods. Now, we also have Incoterms such as cost and freight, which are rather complicated because the delivery, which is absolutely critical in the Incoterm, is at the loading port because we are delivering a package of the cost of the goods, the insurance and the freight. But if the vessel sinks during the voyage, then it is the buyer who has assumed that risk. So the delivery is key and it is an incredibly important legal term. But we must always remember that Incoterms will not tell us when the title to the goods pass. We need a separate clause for that. So that brings us to the end of this episode, having a look at Incoterms themselves. Is quite a complicated subject. It's worth looking into in detail, and you have to know what you're talking about if you're going to use them in your contracts, but they can make life an awful lot easier. So we'll be back soon to look at different aspects of commodity trading. Please click back soon. Thank you.